Hi, I'm Christian Brindle, and welcome to the Everything Medicare Podcast.
What's up, Everything Medicare Podcast Nation? Hey, this is Christian Brindle, wherever you are and how you might be listening to me today. Thank you so much for taking the time. And folks, today we're going to be talking about 3 things that Medicare does not cover that you absolutely need coverage for, in my personal opinion, and I'd want coverage for them. And I'm actually going to even give you some bonus ones at the end for those of you who stick around all the way to the end of this episode. So Medicare is, essentially looked at by a lot of people when they're under 65, that they're like, okay, I'm paying into Medicare, I'm paying into FICA taxes, I'm paying into Social Security, and these are things that I essentially pay into. When I turn 65, it's going to give me full coverage, I'm going to have everything covered, and I'm going to be good. Then when they turn 65, they're given the real scoop of kind of how it works. They're like, okay, so my FICA tax is only paid for Medicare Part A, which is hospitalization coverage, right? Room and board. Medicare Part B, which is essentially the other piece to the puzzle that fits together with Medicare Part A, that's essentially, looked at as, medical coverage through Medicare. You are going to be placed in a situation where between the two, you have medical coverage, but it's not 100% of medical coverage, and Medicare Part B has a premium. So Medicare Part B's premium at the time of recording this is $148.50 a month. And essentially going into next year, it's probably going to be different. At the time of recording this, those numbers were not available. And so, more or less, folks, Medicare pays 80% of the medical bills, leaves 20% behind. But not only that, it's very black and white medical coverage if you have Medicare as your primary. If you get a Medicare Advantage plan, that's different. But that's what you get with Medicare. So in this video, in this episode of the podcast, I'm going to go over 3 things that Medicare doesn't cover that you probably need coverage for. Thing number 1 would probably be long-term care. That's right, Medicare does not cover long-term care like assisted living facilities, nursing homes, or anything of the above. Now, this is an interesting subject because there's a couple different types of insurance that will cover long-term care. Medicare will cover it in the first 100 days under what's known as skilled nursing. Medicare provides you coverage within the first 100 days, but after that, it will never pay for it again. And so, really, beyond that, you're on your own. And let's be real, folks. Before I got into the insurance business, before I started working in my company, Christian Brindle Insurance Services, I worked at an assisted living facility. And their rooms at that time, this was a long time ago, I was probably 19 at the time. At that time, their rates were about $5,000 to $10,000 a month, depending on how much care you needed. They're probably much more now. So, unless you're just incredibly wealthy and you can just pay that, you probably need some protection for that if you ever, think there's a chance you might go into a home. Now, back in the day, people would buy long-term care insurance, which still exists today, but it is not even close to being as viable as it once did. Why? Because premiums have shot up dramatically, mainly because the price of long-term care has shot up dramatically. Assisted living prices, nursing homes, memory care units, all of these places are so incredibly expensive to kind of meet the demands. So by effect of that, it's caused long-term care prices to shoot up. So it's still an option. You can still buy it, but it's probably going to cost you $200 a month, $300 a month. And they're going to underwrite you like crazy. They're going to put you under a microscope like crazy, similar to maybe term life insurance if you get it when you're on Medicare. Not to say that you can't get it if you're healthy enough, I'm sure you can, but it's still going to cost you probably an arm and a leg. And long-term care insurance is usually going to cover you somewhere between 2 to 5 years in a facility. In my opinion, I think the best thing you can get today is something called short-term care insurance. Short-term care insurance is essentially another version of long-term care, but it's short. It's shorter. Short-term care. So instead of getting 2 to 5 years of coverage, you're covered for up to a year or less. It could be less. It could be 6 months. Could be a year. Just kind of depends. And I know this is not what I'm about to say is not something that any of you want to think about, and I get it. I don't want to think about it either. But if you look at the statistics, 80% of all statistics are made up on the spot, right? I don't remember what the actual number is, but I want to say it's somewhere between 70 to 80% of people that go into a long-term care facility stay a year or less. So swallow that one. So you're probably better off with short-term care, and a lot of times it's a fraction of the price of long-term care and much easier to get, less health questions. So short-term care, in my opinion, I'm a big advocate for it. That's something that Medicare does not cover, that long-term care. Number 2, Medicare does not cover dental, vision, or hearing, obviously. Medicare will pay for medical issues that dealing with your teeth, or medical issues that deal with your ears or your eyes. This is really hard for a lot of people to grasp, so I'll explain it. Let's use hearing for an example. Medicare will not pay for a hearing aid to help you hear better. Medicare will pay if your ear is bleeding and someone needs to see why your ear is bleeding. See the difference? One is a medical issue, one is not. Another example, Medicare will not pay for a new pair of glasses for you because your vision has changed. Medicare will pay for cataract surgery. One is a medical issue, one is not in the eyes of Medicare. Medicare will not pay for a crown or a bridge or a root canal. But if you get in a car accident and all of your teeth get knocked out and your mouth is bloodied, Medicare will pay for that because that's a medical issue. See the difference? So essentially, folks, what I would say that is important for you to understand is when it comes to dental, vision, and hearing insurance, there's typically 2 ways you can go about it. Number 1, you can pick up an individual dental, vision, and hearing policy, which we have some available now that are better than any I've ever seen ever. We have plans that are covering implants, never happened before, same-day coverage, right? No waiting periods, which, they have first-year restrictions still to where they pay a smaller percentage on major bills, but they at least pay something day one. It used to be every single dental plan I've ever seen covers 0% on anything major until you've been on the plan for 12 months. Now, they might only pay 20%, 25% day one on the major stuff, but after the first year, it goes up to 50%, 60%, whatever the case might be. But at least gives you same-day coverage, which is nice. So you can pick up an individual dental, vision, hearing plan. It might be $30, $40 a month. I think they're better today than they've ever been. We have plans we're seeing that will pay $2,000 maximums, $3,000, $4,000 maximums in some capacities in some areas of the country. So I think that market has expanded dramatically. When I first started doing this, there was one plan that I knew about, maybe 2 or 3, and they're all about the same, and they all kind of sucked, to be honest with you. But it's all we had available. Now, there's been talks, I did an episode about this not too long ago, about Medicare adding dental coverage into original Medicare, but at this point in time, right now it's just talks. So if that happens, we'll come back and do another episode about this. The other way you can get dental, vision, hearing coverage is to go with a Medicare Advantage plan instead of a Medicare supplement. Because there's so many Medicare Advantage plans now that are coming out that give you a lot of coverage for dental, vision, and hearing, more than we've ever seen before. But of course, you take everything that comes with a Medicare Advantage plan. The networks, the restrictions, the medical benefits. You can't just take the dental and leave everything else on the Medicare Advantage plan. You have to take the whole plan, the whole banana. Everything. So that's number 2. Number 3, and I'm only going to talk about things that Medicare just outright doesn't cover. So I'm not going to talk about cancer insurance because Medicare does cover chemotherapy, but it might be good to get a cancer plan. I'm just going to mention that because there's certain holes in areas to where, you might still be left with some out-of-pocket, even if you have a supplement or even if you have Part D prescription drug coverage. It's mainly on the prescription side, but there's still a possibility that a cancer plan could be necessary. But I would say a cancer plan, but I'm not going to really put it in the 3 because Medicare does cover chemotherapy. You might be left with some out of pocket, so it's nice to have some protection there. The third thing that Medicare does not cover that you might need to pick up, I think this is the least important out of everything I mentioned so far, but I would say a home health care plan. Now, Medicare does cover home health care, but it doesn't cover what's known as custodial care. Well, what is custodial care? Custodial care is essentially when somebody comes in and they're helping you do days of everyday life, things of everyday life, like bathing, dressing yourself, going to the bathroom, those kind of things. There are certain plans called home health care plans you can pick up that will essentially provide you a little bit more diverse coverage than Medicare will by itself. So there you go. Home health care, number 3. I'd put, like I said, cancer plans on the outside looking in, mainly just because Medicare does cover it. And so I feel like it's probably as important as anything on here. I'm a big advocate for cancer plans, but just wanted to kind of give that as an extra. And one other extra plan I will mention, of course, this might be a little bit cliche, but I think life insurance is a good idea to have some form of life insurance, whether it be term or final expense, burial plan. I think that's important because, of course, Medicare is not going to help pay for any of that. I have life insurance on me. I have life insurance on my daughter. I'm a big advocate for life insurance. I think having some life insurance is a good idea at some capacity. Anyway, folks, there you have it. There's some things that Medicare doesn't cover that you should get covered and how you can do it. At some point, you have to kind of figure out what is the most important to you, what's the highest on your agenda, because it's very possible you could end up paying $600, $700, $800 a month in premiums if you pick up enough plans. So obviously, there's got to be some kind of limit to this. But some of you might want to be that heavily insured. I'd rather be overinsured than under. I'm very heavily overly insured. I've talked about in the past what I'm covered with. But anyway, folks, this is just some ideas to kind of let you know how things work in the Medicare world and some additional policies that exist out there that can kind of help fill in those gaps. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, do me a favor, drop a 5-star if you're listening to us on a platform that allows you to do so. It helps so much with the algorithm of that platform, so I would greatly appreciate it. If you're watching the video format on YouTube, please drop a like. It also helps with the algorithm, so I would greatly appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Comment what you thought about the video. I'd just love to interact with all of you. And we'll be back next week with another episode. Until next time, happy Medicaring.